Hey YouTube, this is a trigger warning. If you have issues with discussion of breast cancer or medical issues, this is a video to skip. We'll get back to regular homesteading and cooking videos coming up next week. Hey homesteaders, gardeners, and cooks. My name is Jennifer. Welcome to Miles Away Farm, or welcome back. As you saw from the title of this video, I have breast cancer. And completely unexpected. I am a 59-year-old woman. I have no family history of breast cancer. And I probably have a better diet than about 80% of most Americans who are eating a lot of highly processed foods. We are an ingredient household, and I've been cooking from scratch for 20 years. And I thought somehow that was going to give me a get out of jail free card. I eat a lot of organic produce. I grow a lot of my own food. We raise a lot of our own meat. And I have been interested in diet and nutrition for probably well over 30 years. I took a nutrition class when I was in college, when I was probably 21. And so I paid fairly close attention to my diet and to, notifications about certain things and tracking microplastics, paying attention to PFAS, paying attention to BPA in can linings, and all of those things. Stopped using talcum powder in the 1980s because of its connection with cervical cancer. I've just always felt like I was paying a little more attention than most people, and that somehow that was going to magically make me not get breast cancer. Turns out I was wrong. A few statistics. Breast cancer being connected to genetics or family is only about 10% of the cases. So 90% of the cases have nothing to do with your family history. And 1 in 8 women in the United States will deal with breast cancer in their lifetime, which works out to about 12.5% of all women. I've always gotten mammograms. I think I started when I was 50. I think they've now moved the date down, and so they are suggesting maybe 45. I can't remember. But I've gotten a mammogram every year. I'm 59. And when I got the mammogram this year, I was a couple of months behind where my normal schedule was. My last mammogram before this was in February of 2024, and I waited until May of 2025 to get this one. My husband was retiring, and I was doing all of the medical stuff before he went into retirement. We still have good health insurance, but it was just one of those due diligence things where I was like, I'm going to make my annual exam. I'm going to meet with my general practitioner doctor. I'm going to have a blood draw. I'm going to go in for a skin check for skin cancers. I'm going to get a colonoscopy that I was overdue on, which I also did. And so on that list, the long list was mammogram, and they found something, and it was very small. And I feel like maybe if I had done the mammogram at the regularly scheduled time, which would have been February, they might not have seen it. So in some ways, I feel like there's some luck involved here. If you're curious, it is about right here. So it's on the inside bottom of my left breast, and it is so small that I can't feel it. Even now, I know exactly where it is because I've had a biopsy and I've had bruising from the biopsy, and so I know exactly where it is, and I still can't feel it. So it's about 4 millimeters is what they're estimating, which is smaller than the top of a pencil in terms of a pencil eraser. So very small. I've had a biopsy and I've had an MRI, and I'm in the process of waiting to meet with the surgeon. Fingers crossed. I've helped a friend through breast cancer. It turns out the exact same kind. I have IDC, which is invasive ductal carcinoma, I think is what that stands for, which means the milk ducts of your breast are where the cancer started, and invasive means it's broken out of the duct. So it's no longer in the duct, it's broken out of the duct and is trying to move around. So that's what the invasive part means. And I am hormone positive, HER2 negative, which means that this breast cancer is being driven by hormones. And I have not been on HRT when I hit menopause, which was at about 52. I am now 59, and I did go on to HRT when I was 58, primarily for bone health. I already have osteopenia, and I have osteoporosis already in my L2 vertebrae. So bone health is really important to me. Being outside, being able to be physically active, being able to spend time in nature is a huge part of who I am. And I was very concerned about losing bone health and becoming super frail and not being able to get outside and do the things that I wanted to do. And so that was why I chose to go on to HRT. There's a whole rabbit hole around that the women's health study that came out more than 20 years ago that made everybody stop taking HRT because there was a connection to breast cancer. A lot of that stuff has since been reanalyzed and rethought. And basically, there's a generation of women who skipped out on HRT who are now starting to go back onto the HRT bandwagon because there are estrogen receptors in every cell of your body, and depriving your body of estrogen is hugely impactful for quality of life, not only for bone health, but for many other things. Hot flashes are the obvious one, but brain fog, maintaining your weight as you go through menopause, anger issues, anxiety issues, a lot of that stuff. I mean, there's a huge list. I'll try to put something up on the screen that are all connected to dropping estrogen levels as we age. I still feel comfortable with that decision, despite the fact that I ended up with breast cancer. I realize that's a trade-off. The statistics show that even women who get breast cancer, if they were on HRT, their mortality is not any worse. So you are not more likely to die of breast cancer if you were on HRT. Although, because my cancer is HRT positive, I will not be on HRT moving forward, which is a bummer. And actually, honestly, is one of my biggest concerns in all of this. Why am I telling you all of this, other than if you're just wondering why my videos frequency has dropped? It's because education is really at the heart of who I am. And I helped a friend go through this a couple of years ago. And the fact that I went through that with her and helped navigate a lot of that stuff, and the fact that I also did some deep dives into, what does it mean to have a hormone-positive breast cancer and all of the things, hugely, hugely helpful for me now, because I kind of knew the lay of the land. I knew that I needed to get an MRI to see if the cancer had spread, to see if there were tumors that were missed by the mammogram. I knew that I needed that before I did a consult with my surgeon. My friend ended up having to reschedule her consult with her surgeon because nobody told her that she needed an MRI before she met with him. And so she had to cancel that appointment, go get an MRI, and then come back to get that consultation. The surgeon in our area uses something called a Savvy clip. So they put a small metal marker, it's non-ferrous metal, so it doesn't react in the MRI machine, which is something nobody told me until I asked, that marks where the tumor is, and then they actually have equipment that gets a signal from that marker and helps them go in and remove that tumor with as little additional tissue damage as possible. That's something that our doctor here in the Tri-Cities area of Washington uses. You cannot get breast cancer surgery in Walla Walla, which is where I live. We do not have a breast cancer surgeon. That is one of the trade-offs of being in a smaller community, is you have less access to quality health care. But I knew about that Savvy clip, and I knew that it was something that I would probably have to have put in if I was going to have surgery. And so when they did my biopsy, I asked for them to put that in at the same time. Normally when they do a biopsy, they put a marker in, but it's not a Savvy clip marker, it's something else. And I said, if you think this is cancer from your experience from doing all of these biopsies, because radiologists have easily 10,000 hours of experience, please put that Savvy clip in now so that I don't have to come back and have a second biopsy done to put that Savvy clip in. That saved me a little bit of time. So knowing those kind of things, hugely helpful for this journey for me. Fun fact, the amount of time between an abnormal mammogram until surgery is warranted or scheduled, and it depends on the type of breast cancer you have, whether they do surgery first or whether they do chemo or radiation or other things first in order to shrink tumors before they go in and do surgery. So if you've ever wondered why somebody is getting chemo before they're getting surgery, that's often the reason. But the normal amount of time between an abnormal mammogram and then getting surgery in the United States, and that's everywhere, including places that have really great healthcare and very quick healthcare, is 59 days. The average amount of time between an abnormal mammogram and a biopsy is 2 to 3 weeks. So our healthcare system is a messed up system. Like, imagine, you have an abnormal mammogram, you have to wait 3 weeks to get a biopsy to find out whether you have breast cancer. That is insane and truly cruel and unusual punishment. In the UK, they've actually mandated that it's less than a 2-week waiting time, which God bless them, because that unknowing is the worst part of this. I am a control freak. I do much better when I know the lay of the land and can then plan for what comes next. And so that 3 weeks, it took 3 weeks and a day for me to get the biopsy from the initial mammogram that was abnormal. The second mammogram, they do one, they see something, they go back and do another, and then an ultrasound, was 3 weeks. That 3 weeks was worse than once I actually got the diagnosis. I'm doing fairly well with knowing that I have cancer and figuring out how to move forward. And so far, so good. Knock on wood, we won't know until the actual surgery and additional analysis is done and lymph node analysis is done. But right now, this is going as well as could be hoped for. Other than the fact that it is invasive rather than in situ. In situ means that cancer is still within the duct and it hasn't expanded. But I've got a type of cancer that is very, very treatable, and it's also very, very small. My fingers are crossed that it is not in my lymph nodes, and that will, whether or not it's in my lymph nodes, is going to dictate the rest of the treatment that I end up getting, things like radiation or chemotherapy. I have a really good support system. My husband is fantastic, and I have a lot of really wonderful women friends, some of which are really good for more of the heartfelt, I just need to cry and wallow around in it a bit. Some of them more for the analytical side of it. Some of them more for the let's get angry and make this happen side of it. So I have a really great support system, and I'm also a very good advocate for myself. I have on multiple occasions already called into health system services and basically said, what you're telling me is not going to work for me. You need to find a different solution. I also have a very flexible schedule, so I'm able to travel if I need to find systems that can handle things faster rather than putting me off. For instance, my MRI, if I had had that done locally, they were booking into late August for an MRI. I ended up going up to Tri-Cities and getting an MRI there, and they scheduled me within 3 or 4 days of that phone call rather than telling me late August. Late August, they might have gotten me in sooner because it was an emergent case, but imagine telling a woman with breast cancer in early June that she's going to need to wait until late August for a mammogram. Ridiculous. Yeah, you're probably going to hear additional rants over time with me on the healthcare system in this country. But that's the situation, and I'm doing as well as can be expected. From a purely philosophical point of view, I have never been the kind of person who was just deluding myself into not thinking ever about death or thinking that I could never die. I'm well aware that nobody gets out alive, and that what gives your life meaning is being in service to others and also practicing daily gratitude. And my husband and I are both very good at going and finding each other and saying, come out and look at this beautiful poppy that's blooming right now. It's just amazing. Or look at all the bees that are in this plant. Or look at this cool snake, or whatever it is. We are fascinated and in love with nature, and we regularly photograph it, sit and enjoy it, tell each other about it. A friend of mine in town calls those joy nuggets. And I have regular joy nuggets of just simply being in the moment in my garden, in my backyard, with my dogs, with my chickens, in nature. And that gives me incredible solace. I was walking down the driveway the other day to go get the mail, and I had this moment where I thought, all of this is going to go on, whether I'm here or not. And I plan on being here for another 20 years. Don't get me wrong, I'm not being morbid. But just knowing that nature will continue and that life will continue and the beauty of this world will continue whether I'm here or not, somehow is very comforting to me. So navigating it as well as can be expected. And there's a piece that I'll leave a link to below that is kind of a rant from a cancer survivor or somebody who's right in the thick of it, that basically is, this is not a fight, this is not a battle, I'm not trying to win. I so resonate with that sentiment. I don't have a competitive bone in my body, and I don't really have a violent bone in my body, and the idea of me doing battle with my body does not sit well with me. So I know that's common terminology with people that have cancer, but I'm specifically asking people to not use that terminology with me in this situation because it makes me very uncomfortable. I am going to use the best science available and the best knowledge available to make the best decisions for my health and my lifespan and for my quality of life moving forward. And that's going to be the best that we can all do. So I'm not fighting. I'm not doing battle. This isn't a military campaign. But yeah, so I will keep you guys posted. I have a lot of fun videos planned for you, including making ketchup from walnuts, which is an old recipe really old recipe, like 1600s recipe, 1800s recipe. It's supposed to come out similar to a combination between Worcestershire sauce and A1 sauce. That's going to be really fun. I've been drying lots of herbs, and I'm going to do a follow-up on my purple dead nettle recipe in terms of how to make a salve for arthritis, really, for aches and pains. But it will be a general video on salve making and kind of having a formula so that you can make salves out of any kind of herbs that you want to make salves out of. So that's coming up, and I'm trying to think. I know I've got a couple of other things planned as well. And then obviously garden tours. We're starting to get into the warmer part of the season. Things are rocketing out of the ground. I've got flowers blooming everywhere. My tomatoes are growing like weeds. I've got a beautiful head of broccoli that's just about ready to harvest. I just planted a late crop of carrots and beets and parsnips, and so those will be coming. The garlic's coming out of the ground pretty soon. And so, life continues. People always say, oh, you're so brave, oh, you're so strong. And I always wonder, what are you picturing as the alternative? Life goes on. You still have to take the trash out. The cats still need to be fed every morning. I asked my husband how he was doing a couple of weeks ago. And his comment was, I alternate between a 3 and a 7. And I thought, that's pretty much it. The 7 is that water down the spine moment of fear that is just going to be part of this. And you just feel it and you move through it and then you go on. But the 3 is the daily tasks that we still have to do and the daily joys that we still have that distract us or put us in the moment where we're not thinking about it. And then, I'll be in the middle of doing something and suddenly I'll be like, oh, and I have breast cancer. So it is a wild ride, and I feel like I'm getting off fairly easy. I have so much compassion for these younger women who are dealing with breast cancer in their 30s and 40s, and how absolutely scary it can be and how incredibly difficult it can be when you've got small children. So I am weirdly feeling blessed about all of this. My follow-up mammogram, I had my my normal annual mammogram on a Thursday. I got a phone call the following Monday that they had found something unusual. I got in the following day for the follow-up mammogram and for the first ultrasound because they had a cancellation and because I had a flexible schedule. So they got me in very fast for that. And again, I think maybe if I'd had a mammogram in February when I was normally scheduled for it, they might not have even seen this, and then I would have had it for over a year. I actually do think I've had this for over a year. My suspicion is that I had it before the mammogram in February of 2024, just because I was having some breast tenderness on one side that was completely unexplained. And it turns out that is the breast that has the cancer. And if you're a woman and you know hormones, you know that your breast tenderness can come and go depending on what your hormones are doing, but it's usually not one side, it's usually even. And so I suspect that I had this even before I started HRT, which was February of 2024. I think this probably dates even further back than that. The type of cancer that I have is a grade 1. They haven't done the staging yet because I don't think they do that until they've actually done the surgery and analyzed the lymph nodes. But it's grade 1, which means slow growing. So again, best case scenario for breast cancer so far. I'm doing pretty good. But I will keep you guys posted. I apologize for anybody who this is too much and is triggering. If you've been through something like this, or you just don't want to know about it because your way of dealing with big scary things is to mostly just act like they're not ever going to happen. And I get that and I respect that. And I'll put a little disclaimer here at the beginning of this video for people that just, it's too much and you don't want to deal with it. But expect to have brief breast cancer updates kind of scattered throughout the videos going forward for probably the next couple of months. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have your own breast cancer story, share it below. If you feel comfortable doing that, I think there's huge comfort in knowing other people that have gone through this and knowing what their journey was like and just recognizing that you are not alone, and I am absolutely not alone in this journey. Thanks for watching, tribe. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, Tribe. If you like this kind of content, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, leave me a comment, and share. I have new content coming out every week.